Welcome to Hoystory On Air. This is Monday, November 3rd. Hope everyone's internal clocks have been adjusted now because of the daylight savings time. Personally, not a big fan of it. Prefer falling back rather than springing forward, but honestly, be better off if it were just the same all year long. We'll see if that ever happens. Anyways, have a few things to talk about here today. We're going to go on Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation. I talked for about 20 minutes on Friday about just the mess that was this Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes tongue bath of an interview, and the Heritage Foundation's response to it. Heritage Foundation's response to it was not good. It wasn't, it could have been worse, I guess, if you want to look on the bright side, but it was not good. And this will be in the show notes at the bottom at the end of this. I wanted to point out, Ben Shapiro talked about this for about 40 minutes, and I agree with everything he says. I'd encourage you to go and watch the entire thing. I'm not going to replay it here. But basically, his summary is in the text here. No to groypers. Those are what Nick Fuentes' followers call themselves. No to the groypers. No to cowards like Tucker Carlson who normalize their trash. And make no mistake, that's what Tucker Carlson was doing. He was giving this interview, and Fuentes says, "I'm a big fan of Stalin," and it's like, I'm not sure how many times you have to be dropped on your head as a child, but quite a few times if you're a big Stalin fan. Seriously. And Carlson in the interview said, we'll circle back around to that, and never did. Circling back around is a way to pretend like, you've said something controversial and we're going to address it, and then never addressing it because you don't circle back around. No to those who champion them. No to demoralization. No to bigotry and anti-meritocratic horse shit. No to anti-Americanism. No. I'm with him. I'm all for a big tent, but the tent still has to have walls. And I really do encourage you, and again, there's going to be a link down in the show notes, to watch the entire video from Ben Shapiro. I was somewhat aware of Nick Fuentes and what his views were, but he plays some videos, some clips of Fuentes, and oh my God, this guy is horrible. The fact that he's got a following and makes money and this is a living for him it's a little demoralizing. I mean, the guy, there's videos there. He says women want to be raped, and he is just, and he goes on. Well, I don't think that those ovens at the concentration camps could really kill 5-6 million people, maybe a couple 100,000. The fact he's got a following scares me for our future. And Tucker Carlson kind of having him on the show and his show and kind of giving him this sheen of respectability, or that his views should somehow be within the mainstream. No. No to Nazis. I hate Nazis. No to white supremacists. No to racists. No to misogynists. That guy is, I can't imagine the kind of broken woman that would date Fuentes, let alone eventually possibly marry him. I mean, talk about, that has got to be the most broken human being on the face of the planet. Anyone who deal with Fuentes, seriously. Couple more things that came up. This is from a guy named Mike on Twitter, X, whatnot, criticizing the Kevin Roberts video from the other day. It was a bad response. This is, as I detailed at the time, Roberts' statement was just it's pretending that you can't that there's nothing. It disturbs me. Anyone would say, "Oh, there's nothing this guy could do where I wouldn't continue to support him." I'm sorry, the wife and I watched. I think it's on Netflix. The BTK killer, his daughter. It's a movie it's a documentary, kind of about the BTK killing and the effect it had on his daughter and how she's kind of come to deal with that. But if you all of a sudden found out, if I found out some guy at the church I go to was a BTK killer, I'm sorry, I'm disowning him. This isn't quite the same thing. Tucker hasn't killed anything other than the truth and his respectability. But there's got to be, you can't say that there's nothing someone can do where that I will not publicly disassociate myself from them. It's dumb. You're setting yourself up for something. You're setting yourself up for a fall. I'm not sure what Heritage is going to do. But again, the Heritage president, whatever his name was, Kevin Roberts, said, "Oh, we're sowing division, and you don't want to be attacking in Carlson." It's like Carlson's anti-Semitism that has just blossomed in the past few years has driven him to attack Mike Huckabee and evangelical Christians, of whom I count myself among, for supporting Israel. How is that not sowing division? Roberts calls Tucker a patriot, yet defends a man who divides Americans along the lines of faith and race. That isn't strategy, it's stupidity, moral, political, and historical. Yes. Roberts came out, I think this was the 31st. Yeah. On Halloween, and came out here. I've got his first statement, video statement, which was stupid, made it look like, we've got to give, we can't cancel people, as if canceling is the highest evil. Now, I'm fine with canceling Fuentes, personally. He's odious. He should be shunned by American society. Does that get him more follows among young people? Well, we need to work on reaching to young people who seem to be tempted towards his garbage, because it's odious. So I'm all for reaching out to those people. But the idea that, we don't want to cancel him, I'd prefer it if he was sitting on the side of the road with a cardboard sign begging for handouts. That's where I would like to see him. He's that odious of a person, and it kills me that he makes a living off his hate. I think there's a wide range of acceptable commentary in politics today, but he's beyond the pale. Konstantin Kisin, who runs a trigonometry YouTube channel, podcast, whatnot, had a great little piece. I don't subscribe. Can't afford to subscribe to his right now, but hey, follow me, so I get big enough to do ads and whatnot. And then he's definitely somebody I'd, pay to read. Kind of criticizes him. He says, the problem for Roberts is that this attempt to sit on two stools cannot work. This became clear in his interview with Dana Lash, and That's gonna show up in the links below at the end of this as well. I encourage you to watch that video. Dana does a great job of kind of exposing Roberts, even though it's friendly, but kind of exposes the holes and gaps in the logic that Roberts made in his original statement that we talked about last week. So the problem for Roberts is this attempt to sit on two stools cannot work. This has become clear in his interview with Dana Lash. Throughout the interview, Roberts repeatedly insisted that the answer to bad ideas is to engage them, while simultaneously saying that he would never host Fuentes at the Heritage Foundation or on his podcast. This is an obvious contradiction that even a slick political operator like Roberts cannot resolve. It's not his fault that the generational and factional conflict within the right is coming to a head. So you cannot simultaneously appease people who believe in a fixed set of ideas and people who believe that the only ideas worth having are cynicism and revenge. Constantine likens this problem to a lack of fathers in homes among Gen Z, not teaching their sons how to be men, and odious trolls like Fuentes fill that role. I'm not sure if that's the answer. We'll see. But something needs to be done. The Dana Lash interview, great interview. Check it out. Who are this part here in the middle? Who are the venomous actors spreading division? Shouldn't that description apply both ways, as in Tucker Carlson is also a venomous actor? It's like when Roberts gave his little speech, it's like, oh, those of us who are criticizing Carlson, we are the venomous. Carlson sat there and said, I hate Christian Zionists. That's I'd probably count myself in that number as a Christian Zionist. I'm a Christian, and I think that the Jewish people's longtime ties to that area of the world, to Israel, to that land, I think they've got a right to it. And I think the refounding of the nation of Israel back in 1948, great thing. I don't think the Israelis control politics or Hollywood or anything like this, because it's obviously they don't. But this is just, Roberts is probably ought to find other employ, because he probably survived this, but he shouldn't. A couple more X things. Cenk, I think it's Cenk Uygur. He is also an anti-Semite. He's a disgusting human being. He is right 1 out of every 100 things he says. Pro-Israel forces are trying to force out Tucker Carlson from MAGA. They're also going after others like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. Ben Shapiro attacked Tucker today, so it's deciding time for MAGA. America first or Israel first? The establishment's demanding you pick Israel. Yeah, it's like when Cenk agrees with you, you're probably on the wrong side of it. It's perfectly acceptable to criticize Israel. What isn't perfectly acceptable, and to criticize their government, to criticize things they do, foreign policy, whatnot, that's fine. The issue is holding Israel as a nation to a standard that you would hold no other nation to. And you're doing that because they're Jews and because you hate Jews. If I lived in San Diego, I lived about 8 miles as the crow flies, 8 or 9 miles as the crow flies, from the U.S.-Mexico border. We periodically had illegal aliens traipsing through at the time, the hill behind where we lived was undeveloped, and we occasionally had illegal aliens traipsing through there as they made their way north. If a terrorist group based in Tijuana came across the border and did on half the scale what happened on October 7th, 2 years ago. Tijuana would look like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. We would not care half as much as the Israelis did in trying to get their hostages back and target the terrorist groups, Hamas and their fellow travelers who did this. And I think most Americans would not care. It's like, okay, you want to hide behind your children? That's unfortunate, but you're evil. And if that's what you're going to do, we will try to avoid that. But, the anti-Semitism in the Middle East and the hatred for Israel among a lot of Arabs is absolutely disgusting. And Sink's an anti-Semite. And, go figure. I like Thomas Massie. I think he does quite a few things, but his foreign policy positions are a little odious to me. His domestic policy, I think he's great on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's a nut job. People in Georgia, you should get rid of her. I think she's Georgia, right? Georgia or Florida. Get rid of her. She's a nut. So I'm not sure what Susie Shofar's sourcing is, but this is interesting. Update Reheritage. Of course, Kevin Roberts has not been fired. He feels, again, I don't know if this is accurate, but it sounds good. So, I'm going to spread it a little bit more. He feels very foolish for not carefully reading the script his chief of staff, Ryan Newhouse, wrote, not securing the approval of his boss and leadership team, and unwittingly endorsing woke right and Groyper propaganda through his supportive Tucker, contributing to the attacks on conservative Christians whom Tucker claims have a brain virus, and alienating influential committed donors who were extremely concerned about his behavior. And they have every right to be. Kevin also said he wants the Esther Project, I don't know what that is, succeed and come out swinging against Fuentes and those like him. At the same time, he believes that Heritage needs to make room for the Groypers because he believes he can corral them and convert them into a sane, rational conservatism. No, you can't. You can't bring them in and then convert them. If you can convince them to something resembling sanity and purge them of their anti-Semitism and race hatred and all that garbage, then you welcome them in. You don't welcome them in and then pretend that you're going to be able to change them. That changes your organization. It does not change them. The very person who caused all these problems, Tucker, is still being held in his highest regard. Mistake. Tucker's gone off the deep end. Though he concedes that Heritage shouldn't be and won't be partnering with him on anything in the future. My biggest takeaway, believing that you can reform Groypers is the MAGA conception, and it will lead to disaster. Yeah, you can't do that as such. And speaking of, again, Tucker's put out a conspiracy theory riddled 9/11 documentary. I'll link to this, but 20 years ago, Tucker ripped these conspiracy theorists up one side and down the other because it's BS. It was World Trade Center 6 was not a controlled demolition. The World Trade Center 1 and 2 were not controlled demolitions. It wasn't a bomb or a Tomahawk missile or something that went off in the Pentagon. No. And he knew this at the time. But now, money? Is he getting paid for this? I mean, he's getting paid for this garbage. Is this the way he sees to get more money? Because it's a lie. This is a great kind of article here. Goes through a bunch of the BS that Tucker was peddling. Um, yeah, look, you know, could we have stopped 9/11? Maybe if we'd put the pieces together, but that's, the same, it's the same BS about people who thought that FDR let Pearl Harbor happen in order to get us into World War II. We didn't know about it. And there's plenty of evidence. And there's even more evidence about what happened on 9/11. We have much more information. We have video. We have much more video. It shouldn't be. I can't believe we're playing this game. But Tucker is playing it, and yeah, Tucker's left the building. He's left the tent. We shouldn't be putting up with this. If he wants to go and play his wacky conspiracy theories and whatnot, fine, I guess. But let's not pretend that he's conservative anymore, or that he's part of the conservative movement. Oh, okay. Moving on. David Frum, Atlantic writer. Never Trump, maybe kind of conservative, but used to be conservative, but, kind of the Bill Kristol thing, not so much anymore. Republicans are having a big public argument about the anti-Semitism that has contaminated their party. Democrats aren't. Again, I'm not sure how much it's contaminated our party. You had Fuentes saying during the last election, don't vote for Trump. So I'm not sure that he thinks he's part of the Republican Party, but it's definitely on the right. Again, horseshoe theory, as you get to the extremes, they get closer together than they are to the kind of standard left and right political paradigm. Their anti-Semites are vile neo-Nazis. Our anti-Semites bring exciting new energy to our party. Speaking of anti-Semites bringing energy to the party, we got a video here, courtesy of Canary Mission, featuring Linda Sarsour. Linda Sarsour is a vile anti-Semite, Jew hater, terrorist supporter. She wants to tell you about the person who is likely to be the next mayor of New York City. Let's listen to her.
Right now, I'm a little more quiet because I'm on the quiet side of this race, but I'm going to tell you that once November 4th comes around, I will tell the story. The story is not just, that it's random that Zahran ascended to this place. It is our Muslim American communities. And I'll also say that it's Muslim money. The PACs that have supported Zahran, or a particular PAC that has supported Zahran, is probably over 80% of Muslim American donors in this country. High net donors, grassroots donors. And I want to make the point that the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the CARE Super PAC, was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zahran PAC in New York.
So there you go. Council on American Islamic Relations has far more money than AIPAC to throw around, and they've gotten their man who's going to be the next mayor of New York. Congratulations. Again, the voters will speak, and they will get it good and hard. I love this. This is War on Prices, Substack. Ryan Bourne, Nathan Miller write this. New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani has pledged a battery of new social spending if he wins the city's November election. $10 billion for housing. What's the government doing spending money on housing? Anybody want, I want government housing. Nobody wants government housing. Why is the government doing that? Anyways, $1 billion for a new community safety department. At least $500 million to subsidize buses, billions more for free childcare, and untold sums for government grocery stores, a historically loss-making venture. Previous analysis here has critiqued the economics of his affordability agenda. When asked how he'll pay for all this, however, Mamdani says he'll raise $9 billion annually through a pair of tax hikes, which he insists most New Yorkers won't have to pay. How convenient. That's because he thinks businesses and the rich will foot the bill through $5 billion in revenues from higher corporate taxes and $4 billion from a 2% income tax surcharge on salaries over $1 million. The thing that always gets me about this, and this is what they learned in Europe a few years ago. I think it was France. France put in a billionaire tax that just hit you if you were a billionaire. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a unique feature about that all billionaires share. It's that they have at least $1 billion. And if you have $1 billion, you know what's really easy to do? Move. You can sell your house. You can take a huge loss on it if you want. You can take all your money and you can head down to Florida or Texas or someplace they don't have a state income tax. You don't have to sit around in New York money to get Momdami taxing you, taking more of your money. They can leave. Mamdani's budget plan is just detailed enough to show that the math here doesn't work, even if he did manage to get the state's blessings for his proposals. Not going to happen. Well, he may get the state's blessings, but key case with all these things, the math doesn't work. It's not going to happen. The only way it gets close is if you pretend that the billionaires are just going to sit back and take it, and they won't. But I tell you, the best advertisement for whatever whoever gets the nod for president in 2028 from the Republican Party is going to be New York. It's going to be Mamdani. It's going to be this guy in Minnesota who's a Somali, I'm not sure if he's Somali descent or a Somali refugee and now a citizen who, Democratic Socialist, well, we're going to see what you guys manage to do to places where you've got power. And based on previous examples, it's not going to go well. It's called the law of supply and demand. Anyways, SNAP's supposed to run out of money. Maybe it's being paid. Maybe some of it's going to be paid for because the government's closed. Democrats apparently are going to cave and reopen the government on Wednesday. They don't want to do it before then because they want their voters to be pissed and show up at the polls and vote for Democrats. I'm not sure how the logic there works, but that's what's apparently happening. This is a local radio station or TV station in New Mexico, and this is the thing that just makes my jaw drop. The woman's been on food stamps for 30 years. For 30 years on public assistance. I don't know what her story is, but that's the story I want to hear. What has she been doing that she's on food stamps for 3 decades? I'm trying to think, 30 years. I had just, if it's just 30 years and not 31, I was working my first job post-college as a reporter at the Lompoc Record. Lompoc Record didn't pay me squat. I do not like Don W. Reynolds, the late Don W. Reynolds, who has like stadiums named after him and journalism schools named after him because he got a lot of money by paying me squat. I'm My second job, I remember I was still working for a Don Ray paper, worked for a Don Ray paper up in Washington State, the Daily World. Best editor I ever worked for, John Hughes, up there, editor of that paper. But I can remember looking in the paper one day up there and seeing an ad, and if I made like 10 cents less an hour than I did, I would have qualified for public assistance while working 40 plus hours as a journalist for a Don Ray paper. But this woman has been on food stamps for 3 decades. That's something wrong. And from the They Want You Dead department, and I wrote a couple of blog posts on this over at Hoystory.com if you want to check them out, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, and just the glee with which many on the left want to see their political opponents dead is disgusting. There's a candidate for Helena, Montana City Commission. Wished cancer on the Republican Senator Sheehy in a threatening voicemail. I hope you die. She's not dropping out of the race. Here we go. Hi, this is Haley McKnight. It's nice that they identify themselves, at least, you know. I've been threatened for things that I've written on my blog, you know, decades ago, and at least one case, the guy who was threatening me, and I took it as a threat. Apparently it's not quite a threat, according to the police, because I did go to the police, left his name and phone number because he's a moron. Hi, this is Haley McKnight. I'm a constituent in Helena, Montana, and I just want to tell you that you are the most insufferable kind of coward and thief. You just stripped away health care for 17 million Americans, and I hope you are really proud of that. I hope that one day you get pancreatic cancer and it spreads throughout your body so fast they can't even treat you for it. I hope that you die in the street like a dog. One day you're going to live to regret this. I hope that your children never forget you. I hope that you are infertile. I hope you never manage to get a boner ever. It's classy. I wouldn't elect her. Probably wouldn't have elected her for this, but I would hope that there are people on the left who would say, no, we don't want this. We don't want these kind of people representing us. Unfortunately, that is not happening. Over the weekend, Barack Obama went into Virginia and campaigned for Abigail Spanberger, who refuses to disavow or withdraw her support for Jay Jones, who hoped that a Republican would die and that his kids would die, so he changed his political views. And Barack Obama is there at a rally for Spanberger and Jay Jones. Jay Jones was at the same rally. This is okay on the left. I don't think it's okay on the right, and I hope it's not okay on the right. I hope it continues to not be okay on the right, that we don't do this sort of thing. Here's hoping. And the last one. This is from my hometown of San Diego. I cannot make this up.
She's dressed as a Native American.
Are you trans? Is that a costume or is that how you are? Huh?
Do I look trans?
A little bit.
You look trans,
But it's also Halloween. I look trans?
Just mind your own business. I'm not even talking to you. I don't give a fuck who you're talking.
You're offended? You're offended, but you're dressed up like a girl.
I have a beard. Do girls have beards?
Well, when they take hormones and shit, they get them.
I said what I have to say.
Yeah, you said it. Now you can get the fuck out of here.
She can talk for herself too, right?
He clearly doesn't want to because you're fucking disrupting the night. Just fucking walk down the
That's
street.
it. I will just fucking walk down the street.
Good, please.